It's not just an idea you may have heard before,
Good morning, everyone.
but perhaps an entire speech.
We published the Welfare Reform Green Paper
to help people get the skills for jobs.
This problem goes very deep, and dealing with it will be very tough.
To help those who've been ignored by government for too long.
Supporting people to get off welfare.
So that the default becomes what work you can do, not what you can't.
After weeks of leaks and inner-party turmoil, today this Labour government set out their plans for welfare reforms and the scale of the cuts to come.
This is a significant reform package that is expected to save over £5 billion in 2029-30.
The government will bring in a permanent, above-inflation rise to the standard allowance of universal credit. The work capability assessment for universal credit will be scrapped in 2028. Instead, people will be assessed through personal independence payments or PIPs. But eligibility for PIPs, the main disability benefit, will be narrowed. With £5 billion of cuts announced, those like Danny with mental health issues, the disabilities you cannot see, they're fearful for what may come.
It's very, very hard to go through the assessment because all they do is tick boxes, and you make sure you need to be aware that you fit those boxes. It's not easy. Assessment is not easy, and now they're going to make it even more difficult. If I have to do it again, it's torture. It's torture. It really is.
Just over a decade ago, Danny had 3 jobs. In the years since, he's had stints in hospital and homeless hostels. The last thing he says he wants is to be reliant on the state.
As someone who has been mentally ill for 11 years plus, I miss working. I miss being around people.
No one knows exactly who will face cuts at the moment, but the number, according to one think tank, will be vast.
The really big thing is a cut to disability benefit. It will be much harder to claim disability benefit. Given what they've told us about how much they're trying to save, our estimate is around 1 million people will be affected, and that those people will lose at least £4,000 a year.
Announced today too, freezes to incapacity benefits for some people on universal credit. But under these proposals, they'll be cut completely for those under 22. All this still not enough for those who, up until 8 months ago, were in power.
Fundamentally, this is too little, too late. The fact is, £5 billion just doesn't cut it with a bill so big going up so fast. She needed to be tougher.
It's not the opposition benches, though, that could be the problem.
There are alternative, more compassionate ways to balance the books rather than on the back of sick and disabled people.
Yeah. I think they have made the wrong choice. What we've heard today, or at least parts of it, may well end up in a vote before the House. Will you be voting with the government? Well, obviously I want to see what the detail is, but if it means cuts to the people in my constituency across this country who are using the benefit system, then it's something I would, with a heavy heart, not be able to follow through on. Really, because your government has been quite ruthless about withdrawing the whip. They did it with 7 MPs over the 2-child benefit cap. Would you be happy to lose the whip over this? I wouldn't be happy to lose the whip, but this is a matter of conscience, and if my conscience means that I'm therefore lose the whip, I don't want that to happen. Clearly I don't, but I want to do the right thing.
Deborah has cerebral palsy. She hated having to give up work because it wasn't sustainable with being a parent. But what she's seeing right now, she says, scares her.
The rhetoric from the government has been that, look, for those who really need it, we're not going to cut it. So presumably your payments could be absolutely fine.
The thing is where does it stop?
Not so long ago, we had an election. Labour did pretty well.
Yeah.
May I ask how you voted?
Labour.
Is this the government that you thought you were getting?
No, absolutely not. No. Completely the opposite. I think that the Labour Party is just carrying on from the Conservative Party. And if I was to do it all over again, I wouldn't vote for either of them.
The problem for Keir Starmer right now, it isn't just Deborah saying this government is acting in ways a Labour government never should, but some of his own MPs too.
Paul McNamara reporting there. Well, let's go now to our political editor, Gary Gibbon in Westminster. Gary. You heard Clive Lewis in Paul's report saying that he wanted to look at the numbers, and the think tanks are crunching them. They've had their first statement of what they see as being the numbers. There'll be more to come. This is very dense material, some of this. And they're saying that up to 1.2 million people, and they'll be in the least well-off households in the country, could lose £4,000 to £6,000 under these schemes a year. And 3.7 million is the number currently on PIP. And the suggestion from the think tanks is the way these numbers look at the moment, what the government is claiming it's going to achieve, well, maybe 1 million people, as many as 1 million, are coming off PIP. And that sort of stuff is going to roll out in the coming days. The vote in Parliament on these measures, Paul was asking Clive Lewis which way he might go on that vote. We're probably waiting until May for that vote. But the feeling in the House of Commons today, the temperature had come down a bit from last week, the week before, but nonetheless, you look at the faces of the people who are getting up and speaking, and they are not the usual suspects. Quite a lot of new intake, bushy-tailed 2024 new intake MPs were talking, not in abrasive ways towards Liz Kendall, the Welfare Secretary, but in ways that was signalling their vote could not be taken for granted. Keir Starmer was one side of Liz Kendall, Angela Rayner the other. The differences that are bubbled up in Cabinet last week being very much papered over today. There have been some concessions on these numbers. It's not clear there will be more, because these numbers are baked into Rachel Reeves' statement next week. They make it add up. So the government won't want to walk away from that stuff. And this is a very big test of authority, which is coming down the tracks. And for many Labour MPs, it ties in with what they see. You've heard Labour MPs saying this doesn't feel like a Labour measure. It ties in with what some backbench Labour MPs are saying is a new departure that Keir Starmer has embarked on. He's opened up a new front against what he sees as the populists, the barbarians at the gate, reform on the march. And he seems to be taking a few policy developments in immigration, here on welfare, there are others, which they feel are all of a piece and make them very uncomfortable. This might be the one quite a few of them rebel on.
Gary, thanks very much. Well, a short while ago, I spoke to the Work and Pension Secretary, Liz Kendall, about her announcement today. And I began by asking how many people will lose their benefits as a result of the plans.
What people have actually told us is around a third of people on sickness and disability benefits say they want to work at some point in the future, particularly if their health improves. And around 200,000 say they would work right now if they got the right support. Now, under the Tories, they were written off and then blamed to get a cheap headline. We say no more of that. We are investing £1 billion in employment support. I think that is the biggest investment in sick and disabled people's opportunities to work that we've ever seen, to get them on a pathway to success. And what I would say to your viewers is this. I know for some people, getting out of bed in the morning is a major achievement. Getting out of the house, going along to a voluntary or community group, let alone work and skills. That's what you mean. It is a pathway, but I do not accept the current system where people are written off, denied opportunities and blamed. And under this Labour government,
what would you say? You want to speak directly to viewers. You understand their anxiety.
Yes,
what would you say to those people who will lose money and, on some analysis, possibly thousands of pounds a year? What would you say to those people this evening?
I say to people that if you have a disability that is so severe or a lifelong health condition that means you can never work, you will be protected. These changes won't happen overnight. They'll start for new claimants in November 2026. If you are reassessed, and we want to actually stop reassessments for people who are so severely disabled they will never be able to work, but if you are reassessed, that will be done on the basis of your individual needs by a fully trained assessor or a healthcare professional. And we will record those assessments for as standard to make sure they're done properly, and we are overhauling our training and safeguarding processes to make sure that we protect and help the most vulnerable people. I really do know people are anxious about this.
Under your plans, young people under 22 will no longer be able to access the health element of universal credit at all. Do you think young people can never be ill or incapacitated?
we are consulting on delaying access to the health top-up until age 22 and reinvesting that financial support into work opportunities, employment support, skills and training. Because we believe
Understood,
a
but sorry, that
lifelong
doesn't quite
benefits
answer
when
my
you are
question,
young
if I may.
can have lifelong impact, scarring impact on your jobs prospects, earnings potential and health. And that is not good enough for our young people.
But it doesn't quite answer the question about whether you don't accept that young people up to the age of 22 can be ill enough or incapacitated enough to need that health element.
Well, we are very clear in the Green Paper that there will be absolutely exclusions there for those who are so sick and disabled that they will never work.
Very briefly, if I may, the last time Labour were in power, perhaps one of their proudest legacies was taking hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. So far in 8 months, Labour have cut winter fuel allowance for pensioners. It's refused to lift the two-child benefit limit and now is looking to take benefits away from disabled people. That will be quite a legacy for a Labour government, won't it?
We've also begun introducing free breakfast clubs in some of the poorest parts of the country, like my constituency. We've introduced a new fair repayment rate for people on the lowest income families on universal credit, giving them on average £420 a year. We're investing £26 billion into the NHS to get waiting lists down and get people back to health and back to work. And these plans will fix a broken system. We are a party that came from, trade unions, mutuals, people grouping together to help one another and as well as themselves. Then we introduced the welfare state. It is in our very DNA. We've got to make it last for the future. We do not accept the status quo. It is not justifiable. It's not inevitable. And that's why we will act.
Liz Kendall, thanks very much for talking to us this evening. Well, let's take a closer look at the impact those planned changes will have on people currently claiming disability benefits. With me here are Anastasia Tempest, a disability activist who has cerebral palsy, and Ramisa Ahmed, who's youth lead for the Leeds branch of the charity Health Watch. Thanks both for coming in. Anastasia, I mean, the government were constantly telling people over the last couple of weeks, don't let the speculation worry you, wait for the detail. Has what you've heard today calmed your fears or made them worse?
It's made my... well, I'm a nervous wreck over what's actually happening. And interestingly enough, I mean, I'm just an absolute nervous wreck. Rachel Reeves happens to be my MP. I've been in contact with her. And there's already been cuts. Previously, you've got DLA, and then disability living allowance, and then PIP. So there was already cuts, and this assessment, half the assessors are not. They're not properly trained.
I mean, the government are talking about better assessments for sure, but give a sense of how important PIP is to you.
I mean, it costs more. Like, for example, you can see that I'm not in a powered wheelchair or electric wheelchair. Same difference, because it's falling to bits, and I need a new one. And then there's electricity. I'm constantly doing washing. I have an electric bed. The support, social care is an absolute mess. The NHS is in a mess, as we know. So the combination of the two situations are really bad, and I'm just not getting any support. I don't have the family to support me either.
So to lose any PIP at all?
To lose any PIP at all. And the disability components are... I'm worried about, because universal credit, they've actually disappeared. The disability components are not there.
So clearly a really worrying time for you still.
Really worrying for me.
Ramisa Ahmed, under this plan, young people won't be able to apply for the health element of universal credit. What do you read into that?
Well, a lot of young people have been sharing with us that significant waiting times for CAMS and the transition from child to adult services for mental health support, for example. And when you look into 1 in 3 young people in Leeds, for example, and 1 in 4 adults in Leeds are living in poverty. So you already have the barriers of that, the impact of COVID on top of that. And then from what young people are telling us, these long waiting times. So having this cut will have a major and significant impact on their health and well-being.
And what message do you think it sends out to young people? Because it's clearly joining the debate, if you like, about mental health illness anyway?
So I'll give an example of a young person. So we've heard from young people after doing some consultations that they're literally working 3 jobs, juggling their long-term health condition and then also trying to juggle their education on top. Some of them, even with long-term conditions, have parents and carers that have long-term conditions themselves. So if anything, this feeling of loneliness and being isolated, it further adds into that. And young people have told us that they're trying their absolute best in trying to, most of the time, like, benefits is the last resort, but it's basically like that being taken away from them, and then, yeah, just that isolation and this just being by themselves.
There's an organisation, Pathways to Work, based in Leeds. It's shutting at the end of March.
I mean, the government's argument around all of this...
There's irony. I've heard what Keir Starmer says. He says one comment that kind of contradicts something else. He says, yes, the people with disabilities are going to be protected. And then in the next breath, he says the opposite.
I mean, the way that they framed the argument today is very much that work is good for people, that if people can work, they should work.
The support isn't there.
They are promising more support, but you don't seem convinced by that. Better support.
Well, the support isn't there. Access to work's been cut. There's just so many cuts everywhere, and actually it's a false economy, because if we do so many cuts, it's going to make people ill. I mean, I'm nervous wreck.
I mean, you can see how upset you are about the prospect of any change in your benefit situation. Ramisa, we're talking about a lot of young people with mental health issues. Does this argument work that actually, if we do cut your benefit, it might make it more likely that you would work?
Well, from the experiences that we've heard from young people, there are some young people who physically they cannot work. So we have heard and followed through someone's journey, like they have to spend 16 hours in bed. That's the only way that they can cope. So then the hours that they are up on their feet, they're physically able to do things. Now, in that time, like, where are they able to get to it? Even if there are means to help support them, like, without that time in bed, like, they can't get up. And that's not them, you know, I mean, that's their way of coping, and that's how they've managed to cope.
The thing is, with PIP, it's often misunderstood. You get people who shouldn't even, I'm going to say something a bit controversial, but shouldn't even claim PIP. And then you get other people who are very, very severely disabled. Before I went to university, I studied philosophy, actually. I've been to 4 residential colleges. I have seen more people with disabilities than any government. I really have.
I mean, the government are saying today that this will help solve the issue of people claiming who shouldn't be claiming. A lot is still to be worked out.
I'm watching.
Good to hear from both of you. Thank you both for coming in.
Much.
Thank you.